Good morning. It is Tuesday, March 10th, here in good old sunny Fort Myers, Florida. My name is John, and for the next 20 or 30 minutes, you'll be riding with me on my morning drive while we talk politics. Well, breaking news in the Trayvon Martin case. Hadn't heard anything really substantive in a while on that. For whatever reason, I have no idea, but the special prosecutor on the case has said that she's not going to need a grand jury, which, based on some of the legal experts' analysis of it, means that she's probably got enough evidence to go ahead and make an arrest without a grand jury, which is probably really good news. And George Zimmerman, of course, now has a website called therealgeorgezimmerman.com, where the douchebag can tell everybody how put upon he is and how his life is no longer, he can't live his life anymore because of all the intense media coverage. It's like, yeah, well, gee, I wonder how Trayvon feels. He actually has no life because you took it, because you shot him, you freaking insensitive prick. This guy is such a narcissist, obviously. He's got some serious mental issues, and they're definitely, I mean, they've already said something about him having PTSD or some other type of traumatic stress disorder, and I don't, whatever. But that's just whatever. I'm just over the whole thing. They need to make the freaking arrest and be done with it. And I think they need to charge him for first-degree premeditated murder because, as Mike Papantonio said, premeditation can happen within 3 to 5 minutes. He was pursuing Trayvon with the intent to do harm, it seems. Because, he's going to plea down. I'm sure he's going to, they're going to reduce the charges through a plea deal or something. So he's going to end up, if he gets if he gets arrested on manslaughter charges, what's he going to get? A slap on the wrist? I mean, instead, he should be arrested on first-degree murder charges. Then that way, he'll probably end up being reduced to manslaughter. It's just unfreaking believable that the arrest hasn't been made. For any of you that are outraged by this, make sure you go to change.org or at any number of places and sign a petition, or just directly write. You can write to either that special prosecutor or the police department of Sanford or whomever, but make your presence known. We gotta, keep the heat on people, so to speak. And speaking of keeping the heat on people, Alec, the American Legislative Exchange Council, the Koch brothers funded legislative writing machine, whose sole responsibility in life is to meet with corporations and write pieces of legislation that heavily tilt the field in their favor at the expense of everyone and everything else. And just so you all understand, I mean, the American Legislative Exchange Council has been around now for quite some time. I think something like 40 years, and I didn't know about it until, a year or two ago. I think a couple years ago. And I mean, what really happens is you've got mostly, I think there's one Democratic politician on the board, and there's the rest are conservative, Republican boat anchors. And then there's also a large number of big corporations, which include the likes of AT&T and Johnson & Johnson, Procter & Gamble, Reynolds American, Pfizer, Walmart, not surprisingly. AT&T is, I think I mentioned AT&T, but there's just quite a number of large corporations. And recently, a group called colorofchange.org, their website's colorofchange.org, their organization's actually just called Color of Change, has started a campaign against Alec to put pressure on these consumer-driven corporations to withdraw their support from Alec. And so far, this campaign has resulted in Pepsi, Coca-Cola, Kraft, and Intuit, who makes Quicken software, or a software company. And the latest one is the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, which is really perplexing to me because traditionally Bill Gates votes Democrat. So I'm a little bit perplexed as to why he would be why he would be throwing monetary support behind Alec at any point. But anyway, those are the companies that have withdrawn. Now there's 3 companies, and on our website at shredoftruth.com there's an article about it, along with at the top on the menu bar a little place where you can click on sign petition. There are 3 companies, and this is freaking outrageous. This really pissed me off. I'm not gonna let a boycott challenge go unanswered. They've decided they're basically daring us to boycott them. These 3 companies that are Alec supporters: Reynolds American, a tobacco company; Pfizer, a drug company; and Procter & Gamble, who manufactures a lot of items that a lot of people probably don't think they can live without. And I'll be damned if I'm going to let them sit there and thumb their nose and, basically laugh all the way to the bank at our expense while they bend people over, because Alec is responsible for such legislation as Stand Your Ground, which is the whole reason why George Zimmerman hasn't been arrested yet, and the reason why in a lot of states around the country now a number of gun nuts are allowed to carry their guns around and shoot people. Justifiable homicides have increased by some ridiculous number since those laws have been passed. They also are responsible. They're behind a lot of the voter suppression laws, or as they like to call them, voter ID. And voter fraud, by the way, is not an epidemic in any state in the union. There is no widespread or almost even any problems at all with voter fraud on a nationwide level. So there's really no reason for all these voter suppression laws. They're just, as usual, the fake outrage party, the FOP, or you can call them FOP. I like to call them the boat anchor party, or BAP, which is what I'd like to do to them, is bap them upside their head. They're just manufacturing they like manufacturing problems so that they can write and try to, or they can have Alec write and then try to get passed legislation in the state houses to address these fabricated problems. Like Stand Your Ground. There was no epidemic of people that were going to court and saying that they shot someone in self-defense and then were convicted of murder or convicted of a crime themselves. Self-defense laws have always been adequate enough, regardless of what any idiot tries to tell you, because all this Stand Your Ground, Castle Doctrine stuff has been driven solely by NRA gun nuts. Now, at home, I kind of do tend to agree with this law, with the Castle Doctrine, because at home, you hear horror stories of criminals breaking in and hurting themselves or doing whatever, and then the homeowner gets charged with a crime or gets sued in a civil suit, and then has to pay punitive damages or whatever to some asshole who's broken into their house. That I agree with. But this Stand Your Ground stuff, when you're out, it basically extends your castle almost anywhere that you're at in the world. It's some sort of a personal bubble, and if anybody violates it, that they're fair game to be shot or killed or whatever. So that's just for some of you that may not understand. The Castle Doctrine applies to your residence, thus the term castle. Man's home is his castle. That dates back to medieval times, that definition. But the Stand Your Ground laws is actually for everywhere else besides your home. Just so to give you a little clarification. But Alec is responsible for much of the bad legislation. A lot of this anti-abortion legislation is then the one, the legislation that says that women have to have transvaginal ultrasounds and all this other happy horse shit. I mean, you can thank Alec for pretty much every crappy piece of legislation that gets passed by these so-called boat anchor patriots that go on and on about the Constitution and your civil liberties and blah blah blah, but they're the first ones to pass these bills that limit and restrict your civil liberties. It just blows me away that the sheer hypocrisy of it. It's just, I mean, I can't imagine. It's almost like they're trying to take hypocrisy to a whole new level. They've created an art form out of hypocrisy. It's just amazing to me. I can't understand it. But I mean, I guess it's not for us to understand. So we just have to roll with the punches and keep fighting the good fight. That's just the way it goes. But at every turn, we have to keep the heat on Alec. And I need everybody that's listening to this, which is probably not that many people, but I don't care. I'm not doing this for fame or popularity. I'm doing this because I've just got a lot to say, and I figure I may as well do it on my way to work every morning. And if somebody happens to listen to it and enjoys it, or it's, you're vicariously able to vent through me, then I did something good. All I ask is if you're listening, please go to our website, shredoftruth.com, and register. It takes all of about 30 seconds to do, and get in on the conversation. There's tons of stories on the front page, and there's message board, there's all kinds of stuff on the website to engage in, and there's plenty of conversations to be had. I'd really like to get as many like-minded progressives over to our website as possible, so that we can put our heads together and try to come up with solutions or organize. That's the thing, is there's a calendar of events on there. If you want to add something to that, please shoot me an email. But I'm kind of getting off tangent here. The fact of the matter is we need to stand against Alec. And that means sign our petition, please. Start your own petitions. Sign anybody else's petitions. Go to colorofchange.org, PD America, which is Progressive Democrats of America.org. They're involved in the campaign. There's a lot of people that are getting involved in the campaign against Alec, and thankfully it's working. Now, obviously the Koch brothers, we're never gonna be able to apply enough pressure to them for them to quit supporting Alec. And companies, I don't even know if AT&T is going to, but I mean, Koch Industries really isn't that consumer driven. It is indirectly, because if you go to on the website, shredoftruth.com, there's a section called Koch Whores, K-O-C-H, Whores. And on that page, there's a list of Koch brothers companies and products to boycott, and Georgia Pacific is one of them. So probably a lot of people out there are using Koch brothers products that don't even know it. My parents are using those Vanity Fair plastic plates that they're recyclable and they're reusable, actually. You can dishwash them. And we used them for quite a while, and then realized that they're a Georgia Pacific product, which is a no-no. We're not going, I don't care what the price or cost or whatever, we're not going to use Koch brothers products. Unless obviously you're out in the middle of nowhere and you take a dump and you need to wipe your butt with some toilet paper, and the only toilet paper available is some that were made by Georgia Pacific, well, then obviously I guess I'll have to use it for one time. But other than that, I can't think of any situation where I need to use Georgia Pacific or Koch brothers products. It's just not happening. I feel that strongly about it, and so should you. In fact, I just received the DVD, Koch brothers Exposed. I have not had a chance to watch it yet. Once I do watch it, I will probably be posting some impactful clips and definitely talking about it, because it is something that people should be aware of. Koch brothers are a deep, far-reaching, radical right-wing organization, and it's just making too big of a difference in our politics to ignore. The Americans for Prosperity is the Koch brothers. They've got about a $60 billion net worth between the two of them, and they're using all of that money and power to influence as many political organizations and elections as possible. So we have to be aware that those guys are bad news, and we have to boycott them or anything associated with them. Which leads me back to Alec. Make sure that you do anything in your power. Go to alecexposed.org And right there, you'll see a list of all the members, corporate members of Alec. Johnson & Johnson's on there, Walmart. If you shop at Walmart, shame on you. You should not be shopping at Walmart. If you're serious about taking our democracy back, if you're serious about trying to break the grip, or at least loosen the grip somewhat, that corporations have on this country and our democracy, then you've got to do your part. You can't just sit on the sidelines and expect this shit to get done by osmosis. There's like these dipshits that say that voting doesn't matter, I'm not going to vote, my vote doesn't count. Bullshit, your vote does count. So use your damn vote. It doesn't take much, you lazy ass, to get out there and vote. Do your research, be educated on the candidates, and vote for people that are going to enact the change that you want to see enacted. And if those people don't do what you asked and what the people that elected them want them to do, then 2 years later, you just elect some other people. It's just that simple. But you've got to keep on this. This is not something that you just vote once, or you vote every 2 years and put it in cruise control. No, you've got to be on top of it. You've got to make sure that you know whether or not those candidates lived up to their campaign promises and whether or not they served the people that elected them, and not solely the corporations or special interests, because that's not what it's supposed to be about, and that's why we are where we are right now. So everything is driven by money and corporations and lobbyists. So you've got to do a better job. You can't just sit around and blame everybody else for the problems when you're not willing to get out there and do anything about it. Even if it's just through social media and websites and blogging and, everything else. You don't have to necessarily go somewhere and be someplace all the time. You don't have to spend every waking moment immersed in politics. You just need to make sure that you do your part. You do something, anything. Every little bit counts. That's the key thing, is making sure that you are doing your part and not just leaving it for everybody else. Because that's, nowadays, a lot of people are upset by what's going on, but they don't want to do anything about it. So, you can't be upset if you're not going to do anything about it. This doesn't work that way. Now, the campaign season's starting to heat up, obviously. The right-wing smear machine is starting to turn its attention toward Obama, because Frothy Santorum is pretty much done deal, and he's the only one that was mounting any kind of a challenge to Romney bot. So that's kind of where we are, but we expected that. American Crossroads, which is Karl Rove's organization, they've already ramped it up. They've got, I believe, $200 million to spend. Isn't that nice? That's just going to be lovely. All this money. There's people starving and dying in the streets. People can't get health care. People are losing their homes. But yet these assholes feel the need to spend $200 million in order to grab back more power so they can give rich people more money. It just freaking blows me away. Anybody that's voting Republican is a fucking moron. If you vote Republican, you deserve what you get. Sorry about your luck. Unless you're rich, unless you're ultra wealthy, in which, congratulations to you, you're going to get a couple $100,000 or more a year tax break in addition to what you're already getting, at the expense of all of us who are, making under $100,000 a year. So, what kind of a cocksucker are you that you freaking are going to vote for somebody solely based on the dollars? And that's it. Nothing else. Because you don't care about the greater good. You don't care about whether or not we have good schools, good roads, libraries, community centers, any of that stuff. Or if we have that we want to diversify our energy portfolio beyond fossil fuels. Or you don't care that people's water supplies are getting destroyed by fracking. Oh no, no big deal. Because it's all about the dollars. It's all about the dollars, right? Yep. But there's a lot of injustice going on right now, and there's a pretty big shortage of candidates that are going to truly be the fighters that we need in office to combat this. I mean, it's slowly closing in. Hopefully, we can do something to stave it off. If we reelect Obama and we get majorities in the House and the Senate, that's going to be a big deal. That will definitely go a long way towards at least staving it off. I'm not sure, how much progress we'll actually make because the Republicans always figure some way to pull something out of their ass, either filibusters or something to obstruct. That's just kind of the way it goes. So, what are you going to do? But anyways, alrighty. Well, I'm going to get going. It's been great talking to you. Please feel free to shoot me an email at mymorningdrive@shredoftruth.com. Happy Tuesday. I'm out of here.